Welcome to What Happens After the Show, where we review the prior night in wrestling. And last night we had WWE NXT from March 12th, 2024. Started off with a Roadblock review package since Roadblock was last week. The biggest thing I noticed out of this package is that Trick Williams is over. This guy is blowing up huge in NXT. You're going to see throughout the show, and he also had the main event segment, not only setting up for Stand and Deliver, but setting up for next week's show as well. First actual match of the night was LWO versus OTM. This is a qualifying match. This is interesting because setting up for Stand and Deliver, they're going to have a triple threat match to determine who takes on the War Dogs. But to get into that triple threat match, they're having a bunch of qualifying matches over the next couple weeks. So the first one up is OTM versus LWO. OTM got the jump on the LWO during the entrance. That's when the Vic Joseph starts putting over that this is a qualifying match for the triple threat to determine who goes on to Stand and Deliver. Kind of clunky stipulations, but it's something that you could set up matches for the next 3 weeks to build up to that. You had Braun and Baron in the Crow's Nest looking down on this because they're going to want to scout their opponents for Stand and Deliver, and LWO ended up winning this, which surprised me because OTM had the beatdown on LWO through most of this, and they looked very dominant. So I just expected them to get the win, but that did not happen here. So LWO moves on. Next segment is Oba Femi arrives, collides with Brooks Jensen in the parking lot. And this is setting up the match later on where Oba Femi defends his North American Championship against Brooks Jensen. Segment that followed this, Roxanne Perez versus Lyra Valkyria. It really kind of is setting up that Roxanne Perez heel turn. We see Chase U backstage, and this is one that I was going to reach out to the people for because before Roadblock, I don't really keep up with NXT week to week. It's something that I'm starting to do now that we're covering it more for the podcast. But the lady from Chase U, I believe that's Thea Hale. And who came to help her? That was what I had a question on, but it could have been Fallon Henley. It could have been whoever her original partner was. Let me scroll down here in my notes to see. I have to write in a lot of these names down because I'm not overly familiar with them. Of course, I'm Thea Hale. Kelani Jordan was the name I was looking for. But moving back to the next segment, Roxanne Perez is live in the ring. They are really solidifying Roxanne's heel turn here, which is good to see. Roxy was an up-and-comer during the kind of COVID period of Ring of Honor. She is a star Booker T student, and being able to see her, she makes a great babyface, but seeing her flex this heel persona, it's interesting to see. Tatum Paxley attempted an attack, and we got a graphic for the Trick Williams appearance later on in the show. So Roxanne, this is, possibly setting up for Roxanne and Tatum down the line. Following this Roxanne heel turn in the ring, you got Lexis King versus Robert Stone. Now, when they return from the break, there is a segment with the family at a restaurant, explains the collusion with Trick to win the championship or to win the match. And see, when I write down these notes, I write them down so generally. And there was a collusion with Trick that they were talking about. And that's around the time Ilya shows up, he's letting Tony know that he's not losing the title. And, right after this, he gets stuffed in the trunk of a car. It was a good cinematic match. It really built up the Stand and Deliver match. I liked it, them talking about, colluding with Trick in the restaurant, and then Ilya stepping in and giving his own warning. they're doing the whole kind of like cinematic mob thing well. It's good, but I don't know if Tony D'Angelo is going to win that championship coming out of Stand and Deliver. It's a possibility because I think Tony D'Angelo needs that championship a little more than Ilya Dragunov does. You know, I would almost say Dragunov's ready for the main roster, but we will have to see after Stand and Deliver. Going back to the match between Lexis King and Robert Stone, Stone came out hot out of the gate for this match. There was a lot of talk about Robert Stone's kids, and in the win, Lexis King gets the win, attempts a post-match attack, but Von Wagner comes to the rescue. So could we be seeing Von Wagner versus Lexis King at Stand and Deliver, or down the line even? This has been an interesting feud between the faction of Wagner and Stone and Lexis King. Following this match, Logan Paul announces SummerSlam is coming to Cleveland this summer. That is going to be a heck of an event. You know, that Cleveland football stadium right next to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I was in Cleveland for a Monday Night Raw. Decent little town. I mean, we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We were staying in Columbus. So it's going to be, I think, great for SummerSlam. It's interesting to see what role Logan Paul is going to have on that. Following that, you had Oba Femi being interviewed backstage. Dijak comes in. This could be possibly be setting up another future opponent. I would like to see Dijak versus Oba Femi, and if there's anybody I think that can take that North American Championship off Oba Femi, I think it's Dijak. This segment was followed by Oba Femi defending the NXT North American Championship against Brooks Jensen. Before this match, you showed Ridge Holland training backstage, FaceTime by his family. This match, Femi and Jensen are two big guys, and this was a great little match. Briggs came out to be in Brooks Jensen's corner to hype him up. But in the end, Oba Femi still overcame Jensen and got the win, retained that North American Championship. And you got to wonder, looking down the line, who could possibly take that championship away from Oba Femi? Following the North American Championship match, the cinematic continues where Ilya Dragunov is let out of the trunk of the car to go talk to Tony on a bridge. Tony kind of talking to him, intimidating him. Ilya was letting Tony D'Angelo know that he wasn't going to be intimidated. He's going to leave, Stand and Deliver the champion. And D'Angelo, tells him to have a nice trip back. I hope they keep doing versions of this, little kind of side things with D'Angelo backstage to, give us a little more an idea of the character. Give him something to do, build him up, because I don't see him as credibly winning this championship, but it's always a possibility. This was followed up by Gigi Dolin versus Arianna Grace, and I didn't realize this going in. If Gigi lost to Arianna, she was going to be part of Grace's etiquette school. So these two had a good match back and forth. Well, Gigi was, I'm trying to remember the order because, the ref took the crown away from Arianna. While the ref was distracted, Arianna hit Gigi with a low blow where the ref couldn't see. And when the ref turned around, this led to Gigi low blowing Arianna. Arianna Grace gets the win, and Gigi Dolin has to go to her etiquette school because she technically lost the match. So this is going to be interesting to see where this goes forward, because these seem like such two vastly different characters. Once again, we are getting back into NXT here. So over the weeks, I will have a better understanding of who these characters are. It's very interesting to see the personalities they're putting together. And if I'm not mistaken, Arianna Grace, I believe, is Santino's daughter. You'll have to let me know in the comments here. Following this match, we went to Carmen Petrovic talking to Saul Ruka backstage. Lola Vice interrupted this. And while Lola Vice was getting into it with Carmen Petrovic, Saul Ruka kind of broke it up. And then Brinkley Reese brings herself into frame, congratulating Sol Ruca for how she defused the situation. And they are setting up a future match here. Once again, not as familiar with these ladies. Going on down the line, we'll get better with the names, because what happens after the show is a live TikTok review show where the only place you can comment live is on TikTok, where it'll be read. We'll put the feed up later on our YouTube. You can comment there. We'll respond in the comments. But if you want your questions, your responses answered on air, you have to find us on TikTok. Starting it up, we're a little less familiar with the NXTs, the TNAs. So it's going to take us a minute to catch up on those names. And a bunch of names I wasn't as familiar with are in the ladies tag match, where Kiana James and Izzy Dame took on Thea Hale and Kelani Jordan. As Kiana James and Izzy Dame are making their way to the ring, Kelani Jordan is injured backstage. Thea Hale sees this just as she is about to go out the curtain. So Thea goes out to the ring expecting for this to be a handicap match. As Thea gets into the ring, Fallon Henley comes out to even the odds. And, these two teams go to battle. Good match. In the end, Kiana James and Izzy Dane get the win due to outside help because JC Jane and another girl showed up. Now, Thea had previously asked JC to be her partner. JC said she couldn't. And from what I got from the story, there's some kind of divide between Thea Hale and JC Jane. And after the match, Thea was given a mic and she cut a promo on JC about how she's, just been horrible to her, how she is not standing up for it anymore. And Thea Hale is going back to the old Thea Hale. So I have to believe that possibly we are getting Thea Hale versus JC Jane, maybe at Stand and Deliver. This was followed by Riley Osborne cheering on Thea Hale backstage when the No Quarter Catch Crew walks in. As the No Quarter Catch Crew is talking to Riley Osborne, Nathan Frazier and Axiom come into frame, kind of to come to Riley's side. And the No Quarter Catch Crew says they're coming out of Stand and Deliver with not only the Heritage Cup, but the tag team championships as well. So a couple of members are going to be in the qualifying matches to get into that triple threat match. Following that, Ridge Holland versus Shawn Spears. This match was set up with the comeback of Shawn Spears. Coming back from the break here, you've got the OC talking about how they're setting their sights at Tag Team Gold at Stand and Deliver. This cuts to Hank Walker and Tank Ledger watching the promo on a TV backstage and then cutting their own promo about the Tag Team Championships. After they mention the Wolf Dogs come into view, and it kind of sets these two teams up. Now, getting to the match, Shawn Spears is spending time during the match trying to provoke Ridge to let the rage out. And that's kind of funny since Ridge had previously been in a group called the Brawling Brutes. So you would figure all the brawling and the fighting he did in the Brawling Brutes, how much rage would he have held in? That's a question for another day. During the match, Ridge chokeslams Spears through an announce desk, then rolls Spears into the ring. At this time, it kind of appears as if Ridge had let that rage out. When Ridge gets back into the ring, he attempts to hit Spears with a chair. The ref interrupts, throws the chair out of the ring. As the ref's taking care of that, Spears attempts a roll-up, only gets two. Then he picks Ridge up, hits him with a C4, and wins. Spears getting the win here, setting up his first legitimate feud when coming back to NXT, and the story's got to continue going forward. Speaking of going forward, they announced the matches for next week, and like we saw set up earlier, it will be Roxanne Perez and Tatum Paxley next week on NXT. As far as tag team qualifying matches, you're getting the OC versus Hank Walker and Tank Ledger next week, as well as Axiom and Nathan Frazier versus two members of the No Quarter Catch Crew. It's a Heritage Cup match as Riley Osborne takes on one member of the No Quarter Catch crew. So next week's NXT setup, and I've been saying this a lot about Raw, a lot about SmackDown. In the course of a show, you're tying up storylines or you're continuing storylines that were given to you for that event. You're setting up matches for not only the big pay-per-view, but the TV next week, the TV after that. It's been great storytelling built. At the end of the show, Trick Williams came out laying out his grievances against Carmelo for not supporting him the whole time that Trick had been supporting Melo. Trick's been in Melo's corner for well over 2 years. And, Melo might not have been the best friend back to Trick. So we've been seeing Trick catch fire I've noticed it within the last couple months, but it's probably the last 6 months. And Trick finally lays down the challenge for Melo at Stand and Deliver. Just after the challenge is laid down, the Metaphor come out. And Noam Dar is cutting a promo on Trick. As the Metaphor go to attack Trick, Trick handles them in the ring, kisses Lash Legend, who looks flustered, and Noam Dar challenges Trick Williams for a match next week. So that's like 4 matches set up for next week. That's the better part of a card. We are really, we're really setting up for Stand and Deliver. We're setting up for next week. I've said it before, and I love saying it. WWE is on top of their game. I have always said that I've enjoyed the NXT pay-per-views, but when they actually get to their TV, I always feel like I should watch more. And now that we are doing what happens after the show, we are going to start watching more SmackDown, more NXT, more of everything. Tune in tomorrow to hear me talk about not only AEW Dynamite, but we will cover Dark Side of the Ring as well. Last week, they started off Dark Side of the Ring talking about John Tenta. This week, they continued it with Buff Bagwell. I know him as Marcus Alexander Bagwell. So if you want to keep up with everything that happens on what happens after the show, like I said, if you want to comment live, follow us on TikTok so you can know when we go live and comment on what happens after the show. If you check us out on any other platform, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, share, all those little things. Just let the algorithm know you're thinking about us, and it'll get us out to a wider audience. So thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of What Happens After the Show.